Now, one of the questions is what happens when you don't need people to work, so you can't really pay people? And then there's not the demand you need to run a business. And so I think there's a few really interesting dynamics here. There's a great book called The Zero Marginal Cost Society by Jeremy Rifkin. It has like the longest subtitle I've ever seen. It was like IoT, artificial intelligence, machine learning, every technological buzzword, and the eclipse of capitalism. And so it was just like really long explanation, but great book. So it looks at not only how all of this is increasing the amount of work that people are able to do, but if capitalism is good at anything, it's about reducing costs for things. So as we move further into this, we may see a reduction in wages, but we're seeing a really dramatic decrease in costs. And so when you get to a world where you've got renewable energy coming in, basically getting free fuel from the sun or from the wind or from the ocean, and that fuels automated robotics, which are able to do work and construct things and build things for us, but also are able to maintain and rebuild renewable energy capture infrastructure, right? You get this sort of virtuous loop where automation starts building its own infrastructure for feeding energy into the system. And then it's able to maintain and build more robots and more automation so that more of the things that are being produced are lower and lower cost. So when we get to a place where, let's say something that's sort of tangible, like autonomous vehicles, right? I took my first Waymo ride in San Francisco and did a cruise ride also. And it was amazing how quickly that just became kind of normalized. Now they charged me about the same as Uber or Lyft, but their margins over time are going to be so much larger that that's going to start eroding and they'll come down pretty close to cost because of competition. And so when a ride doesn't cost you $10, it costs you 10 cents, then essentially your costs of living have gone down immensely. And so the amount of wages you need to earn are also pretty low. But I think there's a change that could happen where your ride might actually just be sponsored by the restaurant that you're going to, or the school, if you go to a school, or it's just offered because everyone is exchanging work to each other. And it really makes us question these institutions like money. What is money and how does it work and who has the right to create it and exchange it? I worked on a project for IDEO. IDEO did a financial empowerment challenge and we came up with something called Community Coin. And it was the sort of child of a lot of conversations around what is money, how is it created, how is it funneled down to the rest of us so that we can exchange it. And that's by an institution that decides how much money there needs to be. They print it, or why give banks the right to keep a certain amount or disperse more. Basically, it's, monopoly on money printing. But there's so many other types of exchange that we have available today and we will have available in the future that could be created differently. What if you could create money at the point where value is created? Because there's a lot of value created in the world that is not recognized by monetary exchange. Like if you look at parenthood, anybody who strictly looks at parenthood through the lens of economic exchange would say that motherhood is completely useless and fatherhood is completely useless. And there's no monetary exchange, therefore it can't be measured, therefore it's not valuable, which is absurd. It's probably the most valuable work that a human being can do for another human being is to help raise them and bring them up in the world. If we were able to recognize that value, that would be immensely compensated, but it's not. And so I think what may happen in the conversations that we have in the coming years is that we need to, this is our time to rejigger and refigure out what an economy is and what it means.